May mga balita, si principal, magagandang mga bahay, magagandang mga sasakyan, pero sila teacher, kawawa. So si teacher gagawa ng remedyo, at yun na nga, maningil sa mga estudyante. Ma'am, ito po, lahat ng mga nagsumbong sa akin.
Sir, the
These are
issue, I don't
These are the list of parents na nagsumbong sa akin, iba't ibang eskwelahan sa buong Pilipinas, na kung saan, sila po, Sir, naglalakad na nga lang po ako, 2 kilometro, kasama pong aking tito. Wala po akong pampamasahe. Pudpud na nga po yung aking tsinela, sapatos. Pagdating doon sa school, ine-expect kami po ay magbigay ng para sa electric fan. Ito pa po, para sa kalaman ng marami. Kuminsan, pinapahiya pa po yung mga estudyante. Nagkakaroon po ng group chat. Nakalista doon sa group chat, sino-sino yung mga nagbigay at sino-sino pa hindi nakapagbigay. So yung mga hindi nakapagbigay, peer pressure, it's either gagawa ng remedyo para makapagbigay, masama sa listahan, matanggap ng grupo, or hindi na lang papasok kasi napapaya sila, magda-drop out na lang. I would like to put it on record that I fully support the 715 billion pesos or more, the budget of DepEd for 2024. For the longest time...
May I just, before the gentleman proceeds, the Senate version is now 718.08.
Okay, 718. Let's make it 719.
No, we have to be accurate on it.
Okay, sige. 700. Like I said, I don't have any problem whatsoever pagdating po sa budget ngayon for 2024 para sa DepEd. Wala po tayong question dyan. Regardless, kahit na po medyo kumulang, wala pa rin po akong problema.
Thank you.
Para maging klaro po tayo. Ang problema ko, ang issue ko lang po kasi, for so many years po, sa programa ko sa Wanted sa radyo, palagi po ako nakakatanggap ng reklamo mula sa mga magulang ng mga estudyante sa elementary at high school na karamihan sa kanila ay mga mag-aaral, mga magulang na mag-aaral ng mga security guard, kasambahay, factory worker, na sila po ay naobliga mag-contribute na require ng eskwelahan through PTA para sa iba't ibang mga pangangailangan tulad ng electric fan, tulad ng jobos, tulad ng bond paper, tulad ng pambayad para sa sweldo ng security guard, sweldo ng janitor, para sa utility bills, etc., 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 na hindi po dapat dahil meron man po talaga budget ang DepEd dyan through the MOOE. Now, paano po nakukolekta itong perang ito para magkaroon po tayo ng idea lahat? Ang nangyari po ay dinadaan sa PTA, Parents Teachers Association. Now, pag-start po ng school year, nagpapatawag po ang PTA ng General Assembly. At pagdating po dun sa General Assembly, magbobotohan sila muna ng mga officers. Right after na maboto po yung officers, ang next agenda agad ay maghahanap sila ng proyekto, kailangan nila mag-identify ng proyekto para sa eskwelahan. At ano po yung mga proyektong yon? Yun po yung mga gastusin na akin pong binanggit. Okay. Now, I want to put a stop to it. I really do. As much as possible during my watch as a senator of the Republic. Pero napagsabihan po ako noon na kung gusto ko pong baguhin yung pulisiya ng pangongolekta to PTA, gumawa po ako ng batas. Now, I don't have to dahil nakita ko na po, very clear na sa akin, na meron naman pala talagang batas. Kaya lang, yung batas na yun ay hindi na-implement. Republic Act 4206 noong 1965 na enact yan, which prohibits collection and even voluntary or otherwise from elementary schools sa public schools except for Red Cross, except for in fact, the only ones that was mentioned was Red Cross. Now, noong 1969, RA 5546 was enacted para ma-amend yung 4206. Dito po sa 5546, mas lalo naging malawak po yung prohibition sa collection. Maybe the good sponsor might want to react doon po sa dalawang batas na akin pong nabanggit.
Thank you. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Here. Mr. President, the concern of the gentleman was raised during the hearing. And the Vice President Secretary of DepEd responded by mentioning Department Order number 49 series of 2022, which is a no fee, no collection policy. Tama ba yan? No fee, no collection policy, which they are strictly implementing. And it was further discussed during that hearing that there is the PTA in almost every school that does their own fundraising efforts. And it being a parent-initiated organization, they are allowed to do that. So, in connection with the law that His Honor pointed out, that is exactly consistent with the department order of the department.
But the
which is a
department
no
order
colle-
cannot
if I may-
supersede.
if I may just
Right,
continue, Your Honor.
Okay.
So the department order has the very same policy. No fee, no collection. The department and all their subordinates, meaning the teachers, are not allowed to initiate or to tolerate these collection efforts. But this does not prevent the parents from having their own fundraising. This system has been practiced for decades. Ayan, finally lumakas. This system has been practiced for decades, and it has been a private initiative of the parents that has allowed many projects to see the light. No, anything from gate, fencing, gardening, events. It's a PTA initiative, and I think that's why it was mentioned that if there is a desire to change that policy, there must be a law, because currently the DepEd order is consistent with the existing law mentioned by His Honor.
Okay, Mr. President, may I ask the good sponsor kung sabihin niya sa akin yung bang department order na yon at saan po doon sa dalawang batas na binanggit ko, RA 4206 and RA 5546, alin doon na nagsasabing pinapayagan na mangolekta ang mga eskwelahan o mga magulang para sa kontribusyon sa eskwelahan? Can you please show it to me? Maybe I can help the good sponsor para mas mapabilis tayo rito, if she will allow me to.
Your Honor, if His Honor can, Mr. President, if His Honor can give me a minute to just review, and then I will be happy to yield the floor, of course, anytime.
Yes, sure. Session suspended for me.
Thank you for the patience of the sponsor. As His Honor had pointed out, it's a 1965 and 1969. No, the first one was 65 yata, and 69 law. So this representation had to refresh herself on those laws, Your Honor. Hindi pa ho ako pinapanganak nung 1965. Nung inamend, pinanganak na ako, pero hindi ko pa to nabasa, inaamin ko naman po. Anyway, if we may go to the very important point of the gentleman, no? First of all, let's put on record that we respect His Honor's concern for the parents, no, who have expressed their problems, no, who have reached out to share their problems. No, we respect that, Your Honor, and we totally respect and appreciate His Honor's persistence in bringing this to the attention of DepEd, so that if there are solutions that can be made, they can be made. With that in mind, Your Honor, the question of His Honor, if I may paraphrase it to be sure that I respond accurately, is meron namang batas na nagbabawal na magkolekta ang PTA. Tama ho ba ang intindi ko sa tanong? Is that a correct understanding?
RA 5546, bawal po talaga ang contribution, collection sa mga estudyante whatsoever, whether yan ay voluntary or otherwise, except for Red Cross, Girl Scout, Boy Scout, and Barrio High School. Yun lang po talaga minention sa 5546. Wala nang iba pa. Kaya kung meron pong ginagawang collection other than those mentions, then that is against the law, against 5546, which is happening right now in so many public elementary high school. And marami pong lumabas na mga department order, and I can mention a few of them, na they're trying to circumvent the law para lamang matuloy yung gusto nila mangyari ng eskwelahan na kumolekta. Ang point ko lamang po dito, Mr. President, Your Honor, Madam, mag-implement na tayo ng policy. Meron tayong law, then dapat it's up to the executive para ma-implement itong law. Because the last time I was informed na gumawa ako ng batas para ma-implement na raw, mag-implement ng batas. Nagagawin ko, I don't have to because meron na palang dalawang batas, Your Honor.
Yes. Your Honor, Mr. President, His Honor is correct in his paraphrasing or delivering the provisions of RA 5546 kung saan ho, and I will just read it, no, para clear,
Yes,
maintindihan din ng mga kasamahan natin yung issue po na malapit po sa puso ng ating kasamahan. The Section 1 of RA 5546 states, the sale of tickets and or the collection of contributions in any form whatsoever by any person for any project or purpose, whether voluntary or otherwise, from school children, students and teachers of public and private schools, colleges and universities is hereby prohibited.
Pero dito po sa RA 5546, Mr. President, Your Honor, Madam, totally pinagbabawal ang any form of collections, voluntary or otherwise, except Red Cross, Girl Scout, Boy Scout, and then donors for the support of Barrio High School. And I have a definition of Barrio High School with me. Never did this RA mention about PTA.
Yes, Your Honor. We noted that the mention of PTA is now in that department order. Upon further review and discussion with the DepEd, we are now looking at the entirety of RA 5546, wherein it states yes, thank you, Mr. President. When we look at RA 5546, Section 1, and I will read it again, the sale of tickets and or the collection of contributions in any form whatsoever by any person for any project or purpose, whether voluntary or otherwise, from 1, school children, 2, students, and 3, teachers are hereby prohibited. So in the case of the PTA, Your Honor, what has been the policy of DepEd since 1969, just to be clear, it is not the policy of this administration alone, but since 1969, no, minana nila ang policy, is that there is a total ban on collection from the children, the school children, the students, and other teachers. But they recognize PTA as a separate entity that on their own have their own rules and guidelines, and may on their own come up with fundraisings. I will ask DepEd if there are
No,
any
don't
other...
ask DepEd. Ako
you
pong
don't
bahala.
need to know. Okay.
Ako nang bahala.
Yes, Mr. President.
PD 603, December 10, 1974, dinefine ang meaning ng PTA. At nowhere here na nagsasabi ang PTA pwedeng mangolekta. Ang sinasabi rito, ang PTA isang programa, samahan, na para tulungan ng mga estudyante sa kanilang academic performance. Kung ano mga problema ng estudyante, anong problema ng mga magulang at teachers tungkol sa estudyante to enhance their participation sa eskwelahan, yun po yung purpose. Look at PD 603, ma'am. I'll give you a minute. PD 603, December 10, 1974. It is a forum being provided by the law para yung mga magulang at ng mga estudyante at guro ay magkaroon ng pagkakataon mapag-usapan yung welfare ng mga estudyante. Yung pong pinakabuod. Never doon sa PD na yan did mention na pwedeng mangolekta ang PTA ng contribution o collection para sa mga proyekto ng anumang mga proyekto sa isang eskwelahan. Mr. President, Your Honor, I want a clear definition in our law that states that the PTA is allowed to collect contributions, voluntary or otherwise, saan po sa ating konstitusyon, saan po sa ating batas. Yun po gusto ko para maging malinaw po sa atin lahat.
Yes,
Dapat po
understood.
nandito, meron po ba? In fact, ang nakita ko lamang pong definition ng PTA, which is, sabi mo, very vague, general, is PD 603, pinakamalapit. However, dito sa PD 603, hindi po sinasabi na ang PTA ay binuo para mangolekta sa mga estudyante ang mga eskwelahan. Mr. President, Your Honor, Madam, practice is different from what the law says. You can practice anything you want. Pwede mag-practice ang DepEd. Lahat ng klaseng practice na gusto nila. Pero dapat nandoon sa batas. Pero kung wala sa batas yan, then yung practice na yun ay labag sa batas.
There is actually, Mr. President, no
sandali po.
prohibition.
Sinabi mo kasi, Madam, fundraising. So pwede mag-fundraising ang DepEd. It's been a practice through the DepEd, magkakaroon silang fundraising under PD 603. Pero, Mr. President, Your Honor, sa PD 603, wala talaga ako makita rito, kahit na letter by letter, tinitingnan ko, wala talaga nagsabi rito na pwede mag-fundraising, na pwedeng humingi ng contribution, humingi ng tinatawag na voluntary contribution. Wala talaga. So it seems to me na yung DepEd ay gumagawa-gawa ng sarili nila ng guidelines sa isang batas. Gumagawa sila ng sarili nilang IRR.
Hindi pwedeng maglabas ang DepEd, ang principal, ang teacher ng request or request for contribution na ibinibigay sa estudyante. Bawal po talaga yon.
Bawal.
But,
so kung bawal po, bakit po
Correct.
nangongolekta pa rin sila sa mga estudyante, especially po sa mga
Mr.
hirap?
President, I would like to clarify, never po sila nangongolekta sa estudyante. Wala po silang collection sa estudyante. Ang meron, so
I'm
that
sorry,
we can
I beg to
identify
disagree.
the issue.
I
issue
beg to disagree, ma'am. Ito po, lahat ng mga nagsumbong sa akin.
Sir, the
These are
issue,
the
I don't
These
think...
are the list of parents na nagsumbong sa akin, iba't ibang eskwelahan sa buong Pilipinas, na kung saan sila po ay sapilitang kinukolektahan ng mga electric fan at kung ano pang mga gamit sa eskwelahan, na meron man pong budget sa MOE ang DepEd for those things.
To decide among themselves, they have their own rules, they have their own guidelines to do their fundraising, that is a generic term that I'm using, among the parents. Hindi to sa bata, hindi apektado yung pagpasok ng bata, hindi apektado ang grade ng bata. Bakit ginagawa ng parents yon? Kasi kulang ang pondo. Yung sinabi ng ating kasamahan na nasa MOOE yan, meron yan pambili ng electric fan, dagdag ko na rin doon, ano yung mga kakulangan, di ba? Yung pagpaganda ng garden, driveway, entrance, kung ano pa man. Lahat naman po yan nilalagyan ng MOOE. Pero if I may take call the attention of our chairman, talaga naman wala na ho tayo, nagbibigay ho tayo ng maraming pondo, but hindi ho talaga nakokompleto, no? In fact, ako na magsasabi, because baka may magtanong, yung mga repairs, no? Pagpalagay mo ng may electric fan dun sa loob ng classroom, o di kaya yung picture na pinakita ni Senator Bongo, medyo bumagsak yung kisame. Lahat po yun falls under repairs of basic facilities. Kasi yan po ang policy. Hindi ko naman ho kayo bobolahin, Mr. President, na iba yung policy. Yan po ang policy na ginagamit po nila.
Na long-time policy na pinapractice sa DepEd for so many years na ilan sa atin hindi pa niya pinapanganak dito. Of course, ako pinanganak na ako dyan. Pero dapat a policy should be dictated by the law. So is there a law na kung saan sinasang-ayunan ng policy na sinasabi nyo matagal na pinapractice ng mga taga-DepEd? Dapat lahat ng mga bagay na ginagawa sa ating mga eskwelahan, lalo sa DepEd, na who's receiving lots and lots of budget by the billions, dapat nandoon nakasaad sa batas. Hindi
Yes.
pwede po silang gagawa-gawa ng sarili ng policy na wala po sa batas. Dapat lahat po ng polisiya nandoon po.
Yung pag-create ho ng PTA, wala na hong detalye yon. The fact, Mr. President, that there is no prohibition, that there is no provision that specifically or expressly prohibits the PTA from engaging in certain acts to pursue their mandate.
Kung makikita po natin, yung RA, bawal mangolekta sa bata. Okay. Actually, sino kinokolektahan mo kung nangongolekta ka sa bata of elementary school age? Hindi ba magulang din? So if you look at the spirit of the law, bawal mangolekta sa bata at sa kanyang magulang. Ang proviso sa dulo, kung out of the goodness of the heart of the parent, willingly, without any prompting or solicitation, magdodonate siya sa school, hindi bawal yun. Okay. And then, if you look at Article 77, shall organize the PTA, in-enumerate ngayon yung purpose ng PTA. Wala po dun because it should solicit funds to financially help the school. Wala rin po dun sa Article 77 yun. So if we harmonize the two provisions, not only looking at the letter, but also looking at the spirit, I would tend to agree with the point of our interpellator, Senator Tulfo, na bawal. And if there is a department order na may interpret na pwede for the PTA to prompt or solicit or to ask contributions from the parents, let's review this department order because, in my humble opinion, it violates the law, Mr. President. So thank you for the time, sir.
Thank you, Minority Leader.
With the indulgence of our colleagues, may we recognize, Mr. President, our Senate President Pro Temp for her interjection? With the
Yes, our
indulgence.
distinguished Senate President Pro Tempore, Senator Lauren Legarda is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I humbly suggest that since the GAA is the most important piece of legislation, it may be applicable only for the next 12 months, however, but you can keep on making it a special or a general provision. If it is the advocacy of the good gentleman, the interpellator, and if the Vice Chair and the Chair would agree, then perhaps a draft of a special provision to reiterate an old law or a policy that may be general but may apply to that may be reiterated in a special provision for the DepEd budget to use a better word, prohibit, not encourage, no forced contribution when applicable, when reasonable. I leave it to you how to draft it. If, based on the conversations, discussions I've been hearing, while it is a very important thing and there are many other issues in the education sector, perhaps the way forward for the solution would be a special provision, if the Chair and the Vice Chair would agree. That would refer to policies, department orders, and the old law from the 1970s, which I heard. So that's my humble suggestion, Mr. President. How that provision will sound, will be drafted, I leave it to the body. But it may prohibit or not, at least not encourage, the contribution, especially from the poor families. Libre na nga ang matrikula, pero kung yung hinihingi ng contribution ay higit pa sa libreng matrikula, kawawa rin naman. So, pwede natin gawin parte yan ng ating batas na ginagawa. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Lauren Legarda. In fact, if I may quote Yusek Poa, sabi niya nung last hearing, doon naman po sa overall efforts, as you know, school-based feeding program is actually one of the ways na hindi napapansin, pero ito po yung ways to prevent yung ating mga dropouts, unquote. And I agree. And that's very commending. Pero it defeats the purpose na para hindi po magkaroon ng dropout, para ma-entice yung mga magulang na mga mahirap, na mga estudyante, mga mahirap na magulang na may mga estudyante, na papasukin sa eskwelahan ng kanilang mga estudyante dahil wala nang makain sa bahay. Di ba? Para naman mabusog pagdating sa eskwelahan. Pero pagdating naman sa eskwelahan, kokolektahan mo ng kung ano-ano. Then, yung iba pa nga sa kanila, yung mga sumbong sa akin, Sir, naglalakad na nga lang po ako, 2 kilometro, kasama pong aking tito, wala po akong pampamasahe. Pudpud na nga po yung aking tsinela, sapatos. Pagdating doon sa school, ine-expect kami po ay magbigay ng para sa electric fan. Ito pa po, para sa kalaman ng marami. Kuminsan, pinapahiya pa po yung mga estudyante. Nagkakaroon po ng group chat. Nakalista doon sa group chat, sino-sino yung mga nagbigay at sino-sino pa hindi nakapagbigay. So yung mga hindi nakapagbigay, peer pressure, it's either gagawa ng remedyo para makapagbigay, masama sa listahan, matanggap ng grupo, or hindi na napapasok kasi napapaya sila, pagda-drop out na lang. Sayang yung feeding program. So, what I'm trying to say here, Mr. President, napakasimple lang naman eh. Okay lang may PTA. In fact, wala akong wala akong against it sa PTA. Use it properly. Dapat yan, talagang nababantayan ng DepEd. Dapat yung PTA, gamitin lamang yan para pag-usapan po yung pong mga problema ng mga estudyante at mga guro para tingnan at i-monitor yung mga activities ng mga estudyante, yung kanilang academic performance. And this is the truth. Your Honors, siguro meron kang estudyante sa public school, may anak ka ba? Maybe wala. Or maybe may staff ka na nag-aaral sa public school because marami akong staff nag-aaral sa public school here in the Senate saka sa RTIA at lahat sila nagsasabi na talagang pinipilit yung kanilang mga estudyante magbigay sa kontribusyon. Pag hindi ka nag-contribute, anong consequence? Hindi ka na maging paborito ng teacher. Ikaw ay pwedeng maiwan, ikaw ay mag-scrub ng sahig. Ikaw ang mag-erase ng mga nakasulat sa blackboard. Marami pa pagawa sa iyo. Pero kung ikaw nag-contribute, go home ka na, maganda pa ang grades mo. Yan po ang madalas na mangyari sa iba't ibang mga eskwelahan. At yan po ay documented. At yan po in-interview ko po lahat ng mga staff ko na may mga estudyante sa public school na nire-require po talaga sa PTA pa lamang, binoboto na agad kung ano yung mga pwedeng ma-contribute, anong pwedeng may ayos sa eskwelahan. Just imagine, Mr. President, Your Honor, every single year, kailangan mag-contribute ang mga estudyante para sa electric fund. Kung ipon-ipunin natin yung contribution sa electric fund every year, siguro baka marami ng warehouse ng electric fund dyan sa DepEd, kung saan ba dinadala yung electric fund. My question also, Mr. President, Your Honor, di ba meron pong MOE para dyan sa electric fund na yan? Ba't kinakailangan pa pagbayarin yung mga estudyante sa electric fund, sa jobos, sa pintura, sa bond paper, maging sa, ito pa po, sweldo sa security guard, sweldo sa janitor, pati ba naman sa kuryente. And I understand, Mr. President, Your Honor, Madam, meron po tinatawag na Special Educational Fund, ang LGU. In fact, ang LGU nagbibigay din ng pera sa DepEd, Mr. President. Sana pupunta yung SEF. Now, my question is, maaari siguro ang problema hindi nakakarating sa mga eskwelahan ang MOOE. Saan na pupunta yung MOOE? Kailangan siguro i-audit natin yung MOOE. Yan po ba ay nakakarating ng tama o baka naman nakakarating sa mga eskwelahan pero hanggang sa principal lang? Kaya may mga balita, si principal, magaganda ang mga bahay, magaganda mga sasakyan, pero sila teacher, kawawa. So si teacher gagawa ng remedyo at yun na nga, maningil sa mga estudyante. Kaya nga po, sabi pa nga nung mga nakakausap ko po, doon sa mga listahan, I think we interviewed more than 100. Sabi, kaya nga po kami pumunta sa public school dahil wala po kami pambayad sa private school. Sila po ay mga tricycle driver, pedicab driver, labandera, kasambahay, factory worker, na mga underpaid, na maliliit lamang sweldo. Salamat nga, sinabi ni Secretary Yusek Poa, and I commend you for saying that, yung programa nyo yan, na merong feeding program para hindi na po tumaas pa yung cases ng dropout, para ma-entice yung mga magulang na papuntahin sa eskwela ng kanilang mga estudyante dahil meron ng pagkain. Gutom kasi sila, kaya hindi sila pumapasok, pero kung bigyan mo ng pagkain, papasok na sila. However, pagdating naman sa school, yung libreng pagkain, parang siningil mo lang dahil pagbabayarin mo para sa kung ano ng contribution.
Sir, ano po yung tanong nyo?
I'm just making a statement, Mr. President, Your Honor, kung ano po yung sentimiento ng mga pumunta sa akin ng mga magulang, libo na po sinasabi po sa akin. So what I'm saying is, we have to stop this wrong policy na kung saan nagbabiolate ng law ang kung ano-ano pong department order na ipinapalabas po ng DepEd para lamang pipilitin na makakolekta sa mga estudyante. Sabi pa nga ni Minority Leader Coco Pimentel, pag kinolekta mo estudyante, wala naman pera yung mga estudyante, parang sino kinukolektahan mo talaga? In essence, yung mga magulang. So, for me, change that policy. Huwag na tayo mangolekta. Zero collection na talaga, voluntary or otherwise, tulad na nakalagay sa batas. Okay? Except for Red Cross, Girl Scout, Boy Scout, and Barrio High School. Let's stick to what the law says. Stop na natin yan. Huwag na tayo magpalabas ng mga department order para we try to circumvent the law para makakolekta. Tuloy, ang duda nito mga magulang, baka siguro gusto nilang magpalabas ng kung ano mga department order para makakolekta sapagkat gusto nilang yung MOE hindi na makarating sa mga eskwelahan. Now, may I add, Mr. President, Your Honor, kung sasabihin nyo lang sa akin ngayon na kayo po ay mag-issue ng department order telling all schools under DepEd, let's stick to 5546, period. And I will sit down. Otherwise, kapag hindi, magpipilit kayo, abutin tayo dito hanggang madaling araw. And I will not stop because I know I'm right.
Mr. President, just a short response. The policy of DepEd is very clear. They have a no toleration policy on the collection from students. So, itong huling mga nabanggit ng ating kasamahan na yung mga estudyante, nagko-collect, paulit-ulit din na sinasabi sa akin ni Vice President, DepEd Secretary na no, they will not tolerate that and they commit to investigate that.
Thank you.
So clear po tayo dyan. On that note, may I ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President?
Thank you.
Session suspended for 1 minute.
Mr. President, I'd like to thank our colleagues. I asked for a minute suspension to also gather the wisdom of the Senate. And I'd like to commend our colleague, Senator Tulfo, for raising this very important issue. We also took the opportunity to ask DepEd what actions, if any, have they taken upon receipt of similar complaints. And they confirmed that upon receipt of similar complaints, they have received similar complaints and they have actually suspended airing PTAs. So on that note, Your Honor, they are prepared to issue a department order strengthening the law.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all, Mr. President, Your Honor. Thank you. On behalf of the thousands and thousands and thousands of parents who have students in public elementary school, would like to thank DepEd and the sponsor na magpapalabas na po kayong department order para to strengthen the law. At pag nagkaroon ng violation, magkakaroon po silang sanction. Yun lang po talaga ang gusto ko mangyari para
Colleagues, no, I asked for a minute suspension to also gather the wisdom of the Senate, no, and I'd like to commend our colleague Senator Tulfo for raising this very important issue. We also took the opportunity to ask DepEd what actions, if any, have they taken upon receipt of similar complaints, and they confirmed that upon receipt of similar complaints, they have received similar complaints, and they have actually suspended airing PTAs. So on that note, Your Honor, they are prepared to issue a department order strengthening the law.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all, Mr. President, Your Honor. Thank you. On behalf of the thousands and thousands and thousands of parents who have students in public elementary school, would like to thank DepEd and the sponsor na magpapalabas na po kayong department order para to strengthen the law. At pag nagkaroon ng violation, magkakaroon po silang sanction. Yun lang po talaga ang gusto ko mangyari para matuwa na po yung maraming mga magulang. Thank you very much, Mr.
Maraming
President.
salamat.
I
Thank
rest
you
my
very much.
case.